Welcome to another episode of the latest with Maya. Today, I am very excited to have a conversation with actor Silas Weir Mitchell. Silas has been in the shows Prison Break, My Name is Earl, and the movie Rat Race. He also played Monroe in one of my favorite shows, Grimm. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to be talking with you.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
So let's get started. Who has had the biggest impact on you professionally?
Probably um, on a sort of on the worldly level of career momentum, it would have to be Jim Kauf, who was the showrunner and head writer on Grimm, and he's written a ton of big movies. I think the one of the biggest was National Treasure. That sort of I think they made a few of them.
I
Anyway,
love those movies.
yeah, he's a really, really great writer. He's got a very distinct voice. And I had done a movie with him that I think it went to some festivals. It was not a big hit movie, but that was before Grimm. He hired me on a movie that he made. And then when Grimm came along, he had me in mind for Monroe. And so I went to the head of the line on that one. And then, yeah, it's just a huge impact to cast me in that show. Um, it changed my life. So I would have to say on the professional level, it would be Jim. On the internal level, in terms of my work and how I work, and it would be my old acting teacher who was a just an amazing man named Harry Mastro George. Um, he taught his entire life. I mean, he taught for like 50 years or something. He was really, really, he didn't teach acting. He taught how to be a person. I mean, the guy was really very, very special teacher. And he impacted me very deeply as far as how I work.
Oh, I love that. Um, so who has had the biggest impact on you personally?
Personally, you know, probably my stepfather. He uh he came into my life when I was 4 years old, and he is now 96 years old. Our birthdays are 2 days apart, and he and his way of living impacted me so deeply that I would not be the person I am today if it weren't for him. He set me on a course of inquiry, an internal inquiry. And I started reading Carl Jung, at a very young age, because of Michael, my stepfather. Because when I met him, when he was 40 something, 44, and I was four. He's 40 exactly, he's 41 years older than me. So let's say he was 41, and I mean, he was 45, and I was probably three or four. He, at that point in his life, was making a transition from being a very externally minded person, like a businessman, making a lot of money, starting companies, traveling the world. He turned inward because he realized, oh, wait a minute, is this all there is? Is it all just about making money and going to meetings and traveling to Helsinki? And, it was a cool life. He had a great life. And he kept doing that. But right when I met him, he had begun this journey inward and started studying psychology and seeing a Jungian analyst, and it just absorbed into me this idea of, like, we have an inner life at a very young age, and that's due to Michael. And I'm 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 a daily meditator right now, and I have been for 10 years. I am very, very into Buddhism. I study Buddhism on the regular basis, and I have a meditation group that I go to on a like twice yearly basis. I do one of these 10-day, meditation retreats, and all of that is due to my stepfather.
Oh, wow. I love that.
Yeah, he's a really good friend. He's a very, very dear person to me. There's a unique relationship that one can have with a parent who's not a blood relative because there's certain qualities of experience that are not open to you with a blood parent that are open to you with a person who's just he's just a man who's there, so without all the baggage of being a parent per se.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So were you a fan of the Grimm fairy tales before starring in Grimm?
I was a fan of spooky stories, that's for sure. Like ghost stories and scary stuff like going out into the woods at night and freaking myself out. One thing you never want to do when you're alone in the woods at night is start running. Because once you start running, that you get so much more scared.
Yeah.
And I would do that. I would go out. Yeah. So I'm not grim per se. I mean, I knew a couple of grim fairy tales, but it was more just like I was, and I still am. I'm into spooky stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
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 Even though Halloween isn't necessarily my favorite holiday,
Hmm.
it's just I like things that are I like the feeling of not quite knowing what's going on. Like
Hmm.
my brother claims to have seen many, many ghosts in his life. I can't claim that. I've not seen what I would consider a ghost, but the inexplicable, the uncanny. I'm interested in the uncanny.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, my sister and I, when we were younger, we would have and we'd have friends over. We used to tell ghost stories and we had have like a little closet that we'd go into and tell ghost stories
Yep.
in, and my mom had the best time scaring us. It was her favorite thing to do, and it was so funny.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the youngest of five, so I got a lot of scares from my older siblings. They would definitely maybe that's why I enjoy it because it reminds me of being a kid. Maybe that's why I like it.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I used to be so into that stuff, and now it just really creeps me out. Like too much.
You've grown out of it, maybe.
Maybe. But I still love Halloween.
Halloween, man, for people who like Halloween, I mean, it's a biggie for a lot of people. It's their favorite. It's their favorite. And I
Yeah,
get that. I get that. There's a lot about relating to things that in our normal lives we don't relate to.
yeah,
In Halloween, it's like they say that it originated in sort of pagan ritualistic uh in the pagan world. It's when the spirit world and the world that we are aware of are the closest together and the boundary between them is more blurred. I
yeah,
love that. I think that's really cool. I love that idea.
yeah.
You
Me
have more
too.
access. You have more access to that stuff at certain times.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so what has been the biggest obstacle you've overcome?
The biggest obstacle I've overcome, again, there's sort of like the internal obstacles and then external obstacles. Externally, the biggest obstacle I've probably had to overcome was being born with dislocated hips. And I've had a whole lot of surgery all through my childhood. I had a lot of surgery to fix something that went wrong at the very, very beginning. And that was a real challenge. A lot of, you know, just hospitals and physical difficulties. So on that's on the external level. On the internal level, it's a self-confidence, like belief in yourself is something that I've had to cultivate. I think I masqueraded when I was younger with sort of bravado that was covering up self-doubt. And then when you get older, you realize that you have to sort of reckon with the self-doubt. You can't fake it anymore.
Yeah.
And so coming to terms with that and moving through it by being with it and not pretending it's not there has been probably the biggest thing I've overcome in my life on an internal level.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Um, so
This
if you,
business will bring that out in a person, I'll tell you what.
oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, always so impressive with like overcoming that. And yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's a feeling, it's a feeling of not needing to prove yourself, you know.
yeah.
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 It's a relief. It's a relief not to feel like you have to prove yourself anymore.
Yeah.
What is there to prove,
Yeah.
Part of it is just getting older and realizing how, you know, it's all in your head.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything when it's all in your head because our heads, our thoughts, our minds are so powerful over
Yeah.
us. But when you reckon with it directly and you live with it, you can dissolve it, but you have to face it. It's that James Baldwin quote, which is not everything not everything we face can be overcome, but you can't overcome anything you don't face.
Yeah. Oh, I love that one.
That's a paraphrase. That's not verbatim, but that's the idea. I don't know
Yeah.
if he uses the word face. Maybe it's
Yeah.
challenge, but that's the idea. Not everything that you confront can be overcome, but nothing can be overcome that you don't confront.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's a good one. He's
Yeah.
amazing. Was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you had a warning label, what would yours say?
That's a great question. Um, it would be it would be handle with care.
I like that.
Yeah, handle with care.
Oh, I like that one.
It
I
has
think,
two sides, One side is like be gentle,
yeah.
just be cool, be gentle, be nice. The other is don't don't make me mad. It's
Yeah.
got a positive and a negative side that
Yeah.
handle with care.
Yeah.
They're equally valid, I think, for me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, so I am pop culture obsessed and I go in stages of shows that I cannot stop watching. Is there a show that you are currently obsessed with?
Not at the moment, but the last thing that I did watch very thoroughly was Ripley on Netflix. I really enjoyed that a lot. Um, but trying to think of a show before that that really, well, I mean, obviously the greats like The Sopranos. I mean, probably the greatest show that's ever been made, The Sopranos. But I mean, that was a long time ago. Um, but I'm not a pop culture uh I'm not like obsessed by pop culture. Things that emerge for me, I I wait and see. I'm a wait and see. When something comes up, I'm like, let's look into that, see what that is. And the last one that really captured me was was Ripley. It was a beautifully shot, beautifully acted. There's nothing I didn't like about it. And I watched that in like 3 days. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that was a really good show.
What are you into right now? What's your
Um,
recent obsession?
I have a couple things. Well, recently the new season of the Lincoln Lawyer, or
Oh, wow.
the two shows that I am like totally obsessed with are the Lincoln Lawyer and Outer Banks.
Oh yeah, Outer
Um,
Banks. That's supposed to be really cool. Like, kind
yeah.
of, is it sort of slightly paranormal, or is it more just like,
Yeah, it's more kind of like adventure and yeah. It's and both of those shows have new seasons
oh,
and
cool.
they're really good.
It's really fun to have something that you really look forward to like that. Like, I'm reading a
Yeah.
book right now that I absolutely love, which is one of my favorite things is a book that you just love.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Cool.
really
What book are you reading?
it's called Hamnet,
Hmm.
and it takes place in the 16th century in England. And the father of this child, who's an 11-year-old boy named Hamnet, is suspiciously like Shakespeare. And but it's not about him being Shakespeare. It's about this boy during and his family. And it's just beautifully written, and the characters are really clearly drawn, and the language is um, a little bit Renaissance, not Renaissance, Elizabethan. So the language is a little bit different, just enough to give you a real flavor of the world, and it's really gripping and wonderful, and it's just about it's and it's sort of through the eyes or from the point of view of a child in Elizabethan England, and it's really really well done.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds interesting.
yeah, it's a super cool book, and apparently the name Hamlet and Hamnet were basically the same. They were sort of interchangeable names
Oh,
in that
wow.
time. Yeah, Hamnet was a real name at the time if you look at the rolls of, like the census and stuff.
Oh, wow. That's
So,
really
yeah, it's
interesting.
like historical fiction. I mean, it's not like it's based loosely in history because a lot of people did think that Shakespeare had a son who died, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
he was young.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting.
Really well done.
Huh. So what genre of movie would your life story be told as?
Oh, wow. That's another great one. Um, it would be told as there's a it's I would there's a German word called I think it's called Bildungsroman. I think that's the word. And it's basically sort of a coming of age story, but it's about a person becoming who they really are. And I feel like my life story would be told as like sort of a Catcher in the Rye, Catcher in the
Oh,
Rye,
yeah.
like that
Yeah,
kind of
I
thing,
love
like
them.
where a person starts in a kind of confused um state of not really knowing who he is and kind of pretending he knows who he is, going through a period. So yeah, like I think a coming of age story, but going into adulthood.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Catcher in the Rye is one of my favorite books.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too. So's
Oh,
Franny and Zoe.
yeah.
Have you read Franny and Zoe?
I haven't.
It's really good. Those two are Salinger's best, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
you should try Franny and Zoe. It's really good. It's
Yeah.
it's it's a family story also, and told from the points of view of two siblings.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
Cool. I'm writing that down so I
Yeah,
remember.
it's
Uh,
worth a read for sure.
yeah. Cool. Yeah, it usually I like reading, but it usually like takes me forever to read a book. I've been reading like the same book for a year now.
I can that happens to me too sometimes. I'm not a fast reader. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
it depends on the book. but generally I'm not a speedy reader.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, so what small things bring you joy on a daily basis?
Birds. Birds bring me joy. Animals of all kinds bring me joy. Um, Having my oatmeal with my dog, like sitting quietly in the morning with my dog brings me joy. Um, I find we can cultivate a joyful inner life. It's within our it's within our power to cultivate a joyful way of living. Um, and that's what I've been doing for the last 10, 15 years is being aware of the fact that we have agency in terms of how we see and how we respond to the world. And that has radically altered my way of living. And there he is.
Uh-huh.
Hello. Hello, dog. How are
Aw.
you?
Yeah.
As if on cue.
Yeah.
He's a big, beautiful dog.
Aw.
Baloo. Yes,
Yeah.
a sweet dog.
Aw.
Yeah. So I have found that our minds are so powerful and that we don't really oftentimes recognize
Yeah.
what they're doing. And we have the ability to recognize mental patterns and all that stuff. And you can change the way you live by changing the way your mind is.
Yeah.
And so being joyful has been like a project.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is something people are always surprised to learn about you?
What they're surprised to learn about me?
Yeah.
Um, I think the fact that I'm really actually a very quiet person because I think I come across as being really kind of big, like a big energy and loud and talks a lot. But I think what is surprising to people about me is that I'm a very gentle, I'm actually a very gentle person. I don't think I come off out of the gate as a gentle person.
Mm.
I think I come off as a little bit of a sort of forceful, opinionated. I'm trying to be less opinionated. It's so boring. Um, but yeah, I think that's a surprising quality to people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your favorite way to procrastinate?
Oh, these are really good questions.
Thank
Um,
you.
my favorite way to procrastinate is probably to take a walk. Um, and watching TV is very procrastinating for me, like watching sports.
Mm.
Um, and I'm also learning about procrastination in my life generally, and that I don't like the feeling of procrastinating. And so what I do to when I feel the procrastination urge to coming on, I generally now redirect myself to do the thing, at least a little bit of it. You don't have to complete the task or whatever, do a little bit of it, and it removes the anxiety. Because I think procrastination and anxiety are like very close cousins,
Yeah.
and I don't like the feeling. So I try to recognize it and then just do something in the direction of the thing I'm procrastinating about, which I guess isn't really procrastination anymore,
Yeah.
you know? And sometimes even going for the walk is a way of like, it's procrastination, but I also do it as a preparatory, like
Mm.
precursor to then doing the thing. So
Yeah.
it's kind of procrastination, but it's also kind of not. It's like a
Oh.
weird kind of procrastination.
Yeah. I Yeah, I usually procrastinate with if I'm like binge watching a show that I'm really obsessed with. Like the last time I did that was with Grimm, that I just didn't want to do anything I had to do. I just wanted to keep watching Grimm.
It had that effect on people. I know the people who were fans of Grimm were really, it's like Halloween. If you're a fan, you're probably a super fan. Grimm had a lot of super fans, and that's what kept us on the air for 6.5 years was the fans, really. We had a real following. So
Yeah.
thank
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I had always wanted to watch Grimm like since it was on, but like I was too young to watch it when it was on.
you.
And then I like wanted to watch it for a couple years, and my mom kept telling me that she thinks it would really freak me out. And then eventually I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try it. And I mean, she wasn't wrong, but I was also like, I just became totally obsessed with it. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it definitely the people changing thing definitely spooked some folks at the beginning.
mm,
People.
yeah.
I mean, people in my family were like, "Ooh, no, that's woo." They were.
Yeah.
It was a little queasy feeling a little bit for some folks,
Yeah.
and it didn't shy away. I mean, it was
Yeah.
dark. I mean, it had like dark stuff in
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
at times.
Did. Yeah, it did. Yeah, there's only one episode that I ended up skipping because I was like, I can't watch this. And but there was only one of those. Every
Do you remember which one or what it was
yeah.
about that you were like, I
I
can't.
yeah, I think it was like the second episode in the first season with the like rats.
Oh
Um
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was yes, the Rat King, where it was like
Yeah.
a yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, rats are like a phobia of mine, so I was like, I can't watch this.
I get that. I totally get that. Yeah, there was some really gooey, gory, yucky stuff on that show at times.
Yeah.
And I guess rats are one of those things for people for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the only one I skipped. Other one I watched.
I think there was one that was really grotesque for me, which was the guy who was like he was a bird creature and he would go home and like feed his parents
Oh
by
yeah.
like oh God, that was so grotesque to me.
Yeah.
Woo, that was tough.
Yeah. Yeah, the one storyline that like really I don't know, I found really creepy where there were a couple ones, but the Jack the Ripper storyline.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to remember that. I don't know if I remember. I remember a domestic abuse episode where there was a poor woman kept getting
Yeah.
beaten up.
Yeah.
But they did not shy away. I mean, that's I think
Yeah.
what kind of gave it some of
Yeah.
its staying power, people still watch it. And I think it's because it got into some pretty serious territory at
Yeah.
times. It really did.
Yeah. 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 Um yeah, so oh is there someone who without fail always makes you laugh?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of friends they just have funny bones. That's how they're just inherently funny, you know. Um, there's also a guy I worked with uh, a long time ago who also has funny bones. It was one of the funniest people I've ever met. We worked on one movie a long time ago. His name was Gaylord Sartain, and um, I think he's done some Simpsons episodes, and he just was. I mean, it was like, oh, I'm gonna forget his name now. Oh God, I can see his face. Jonathan Winters, who's an old comedian from the old days, who was just crazy, just a crazy comedian. Um, this guy was like a reincarnation of Jonathan Winters. Jonathan Winters would go from one personality to another personality to a third personality, all with different voices, different faces. You never knew what was going to come out of him. He's bonkers. And that's what Gaylord was like. Gaylord, I've not laughed as hard as I have with that guy many times in my life. So yeah, Gaylord Sartain, one of the funniest human beings to walk the earth.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So do you have any irrational fears?
I'm not really a phobic person, when I there were I went through a period when I had an irrational fear of well, it wasn't irrational, I guess, but of just like car accidents. Just like,
Mm.
every time I see a car accident for the next long period of time, I drive like a like an old scared person because I think I've had enough moments where I've almost had bad car accidents that it's just something that I'm really aware of. But I
Yeah.
don't have an irrational fear of like, spiders or something. I'm not like or scared of, water or, I don't, or, I get a little nervous flying sometimes, but, you know,
Yeah.
these are things you live with. But I don't really have, I'm not afraid of, trees or something. Do
Mm.
you have
Yeah.
phobias besides
Yeah.
rats?
Yeah. Yeah. I always joke with my family that I think my brain is just one big irrational fear because there's always things like I'll be spinning out about, and my mom and my sister will look at me and be like, that's like that's irrational, right? I'm like, and then I say, well, saying it out loud, yes, I hear it, but
Right, right.
yeah,
That doesn't
yeah,
mean it doesn't have power, though.
yeah,
No, I hear
yeah.
you.
Yeah, so I'm still working on trying to get past all the, I don't know, like really understand when something is totally irrational.
Yeah, I mean, the mind is a wild place.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so what is the best song to describe your life right now?
Maybe Cat Stevens, "Oh Baby, It's a Wild World," because I am mystified at the fact of like being actually a conscious being. Like every now and then I'll just sit and realize like this is an incredible experience. Just having reflective consciousness is an incredible thing that we all take for granted. And it really is an amazing, it's miraculous. It's miraculous that we have this capacity.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? What is it? How did it happen?
Yeah.
It's mystifying, and we
Yeah.
don't even think about it really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would
Wow.
say it's a wild world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Um, so I just have one more question for you. I love inspiring and motivational quotes. And this week, the one that spoke to me is by Dane Thomas. And it says, and maybe you can't see it, but there's beauty hidden behind your insecurities. Is there a quotation that has inspired you lately?
Trying to think if there's a specific one. Um, I can't think of a specific quote right now, but um, well, I can actually. Something just came up to me. It's a Rilke quote, which is um, um, it has to do with living the question. Um, be, I think it's be gentle with all that is unsolved in your heart, because we don't know all the answers. And it is not, if you don't know the answer to something, it's not time for you to know the answer. So the quote is really about living the question because it's not time for the answer yet. And I find that really liberating,
Yeah.
not having to know everything all the time.
Yeah.
So be gentle with all that is unsolved in your heart. It just has a kind of an opening quality,
Yeah.
where you just open to the unknown because the answer is in the question. So you have to live the question before you know the answer.
Yeah.
And I think I find that liberating because I think I used to want to just have everything figured out.
Mm.
And you can't things are not always figure
Mm.
outable.
Yeah.
It's okay for things not to be figure outable.
Yeah.
Life is this is a mystery. What's happening here?
Yeah. Well, I love that one.
Yeah. Rilke's got a lot of them. He's got a lot of
Yeah.
good quotes.
Mm. Yeah.
He's a wise, wise person.
Cool. Yeah. I love that. Well, that was my final question for you. I have just had the best time talking with you, so thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun to talk.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
And that's a wrap on today's edition of the latest with Maya.